Key historical highlights. Boston's rich history. Introduction. Boston, Massachusetts, stands as one of the most iconic and historically rich cities in the United States. Founded nearly 4 centuries ago, Boston's story is deeply entwined with the origins and development of the American nation itself. From its colonial foundations to its pivotal role in the American Revolution, and its growth into a modern hub of education, innovation, and culture. Boston exemplifies the dynamic evolution of America. Boston's significance. More than just a city, Boston is more than just a geographic location on a map. It's a symbol of American identity, resilience, and progress. Its historical significance stems from a variety of factors. Birthplace of the American Revolution. Boston was the stage for several landmark events that sparked the fight for American independence from British rule. The city's residents fiercely championed liberty and justice, leading protests that culminated in the Boston Massacre, Boston Tea Party, and ultimately, Revolution. Center of education and intellectual leadership, home to some of America's oldest and most prestigious educational institutions, including Harvard University, founded 1636, and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. Boston has long been a beacon of learning, research, and innovation. Economic and cultural hub. Historically, Boston's port and trading facilities made it a vital economic center during colonial times and beyond. Its culture, from literature and music to architecture and social reform movements, has shaped American society in profound ways. Model of urban growth and diversity. Over the centuries, Boston has transformed from a small colonial town into a bustling metropolis, adapting to waves of immigration and social change while maintaining its unique heritage. Why Boston is a cornerstone of American history. Boston's role in American history can hardly be overstated. The city's contributions to the nation's political, economic, and cultural fabric establish it as a cornerstone in understanding the broader American experience. Cradle of American democracy and revolution. Boston was where many early ideas about governance, civil liberties, and resistance to tyranny took root. The city was home to influential patriots such as Samuel Adams, John Hancock, and Paul Revere. These figures, along with everyday citizens, challenged British authority and organized revolutionary acts that helped ignite the War of Independence. The ideals and actions born in Boston helped shape the fundamental principles of American democracy. Concepts like representative government, individual rights, and freedom of speech gained traction in Boston's town meetings and public forums, before becoming embedded in the U.S. Constitution, a hub for education and innovation. The founding of Harvard University just 6 years after Boston's own establishment underscored the city's commitment to education. Harvard, the oldest institution of higher learning in the United States, helped cultivate a culture of intellectual rigor that extended beyond academia into public life and policy. Later, Boston emerged as a leader in scientific research and technological advancement. Institutions such as MIT and Boston University, along with a dense network of hospitals and research centers, have contributed significantly to global progress in medicine, engineering, and the sciences. Economic powerhouse and trade center. From its early days, Boston's port was one of the busiest in North America. Its strategic location on the Atlantic coast made it a key center for commerce and shipping. The city's economy grew steadily through trade in goods such as fish, timber, and textiles, fueling its expansion and prosperity. Boston's economic development also mirrored the broader industrialization of the United States. The city became a hub for manufacturing, finance, and commerce during the 19th and early 20th centuries, positioning it as a crucial player in the nation's rise as an economic superpower. Cultural influence and social reform. Boston has long been a cultural capital, home to legendary writers, artists, and musicians. Figures like Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and Louisa May Alcott contributed to the American literary tradition. The city's museums, theaters, and music venues continue to nurture creative expression. In addition, Boston was a center of important social reform movements, including abolitionism, women's rights, and labor activism. The city played a critical role in the fight against slavery, with strong abolitionist communities and activists who helped propel national change. A city that reflects the American journey. Boston's history reflects the larger narrative of the United States, a story of settlement, conflict, innovation, diversity, and growth. Understanding Boston means understanding key themes that define America itself. settlement and survival. From its early days as a colonial settlement facing harsh conditions and complex relations with Native American peoples, Boston's founders exhibited resilience and community spirit. Struggle for independence and identity. Boston's revolutionary fervor embodied the American quest for self-determination and democratic governance. Industrial and social transformation. The city's evolution from a colonial port to an industrial hub and cultural capital mirrors America's economic and social transitions. Innovation and progress. Boston's continued focus on education, science, and technology shows how it remains at the forefront of American advancement. A center for abolition and reform. 1800s. The 19th century marked a transformative era in Boston's history, as the city emerged as a vibrant hub for social reform and progressive movements that helped shape the moral and political landscape of the United States. Boston's unique blend of intellectual energy, religious conviction, and moral courage made it a powerhouse for abolitionism, education reform, women's rights, and immigrant advocacy. This period cemented Boston's reputation not only as a center of economic and industrial growth, but also as a moral compass for a nation grappling with profound questions about freedom, equality, and justice. Boston and the abolitionist movement, a fight against slavery during the 1800s. Boston became synonymous with abolitionism, the movement to end slavery in the United States. The city attracted some of the most passionate and influential abolitionists, who dedicated their lives to the cause. Key figures and leaders. Boston was home to iconic abolitionists such as William Lloyd Garrison, Frederick Douglass, and Wendell Phillips. Garrison, the fiery editor of the Liberator newspaper, began publishing in Boston in 1831. His uncompromising stance against slavery and his call for immediate emancipation energized abolitionist circles not only in Boston but across the nation. Frederick Douglass, an escaped slave and powerful orator, frequently spoke at Boston's abolitionist gatherings, sharing his first-hand accounts of slavery's brutal realities. Douglass's eloquence and moral authority helped galvanize support in Boston and beyond. Wendell Phillips, often called the abolitionist aristocrat, was another key Boston figure. A wealthy lawyer and speaker, Phillips dedicated himself to fighting slavery and advocating for equal rights with unmatched fervor. Boston as a safe haven. Boston also served as a critical stop on the Underground Railroad, the secret network that helped enslaved African Americans escape to freedom in the North and Canada. Many Bostonians opened their homes and churches as safe houses, providing shelter and support to freedom seekers. A city divided. Despite Boston's strong abolitionist presence, the city was not without its complexities. There were tensions between radicals like Garrison and more moderate voices, who advocated gradual emancipation or colonization, the idea of resettling freed slaves outside the U.S. Nevertheless, Boston's abolitionists persisted in pushing the nation toward the abolition of slavery, contributing significantly to the mounting tensions that eventually led to the Civil War. Progressive movements in education. Boston's commitment to education reform during the 19th century was equally significant. The city became a model for public schooling and higher education, championing access and quality at a time when many Americans were still denied formal education. Horace Mann and the Common School movement. Although Horace Mann was from Massachusetts broadly, his influence on Boston's educational landscape was profound. Mann, known as the father of the Common School movement, advocated for publicly funded non-sectarian schools that would educate all children regardless of background. His efforts laid the groundwork for Boston's public school system, which became one of the most advanced in the country. Boston's public schools emphasized not just literacy but also moral education, civic responsibility, and critical thinking. The city's dedication to education helped prepare generations for active participation in democracy and the industrial economy. Higher education expansion. Boston's educational institutions also expanded during the 1800s. Harvard continued to grow in prestige, and new colleges such as Boston University, founded 1839, were established, broadening opportunities for higher learning, including for women and African Americans. Women's rights and early feminism. Boston was at the forefront of the burgeoning women's rights movement during the 19th century. The city's reformers challenged the traditional roles of women in society and fought for suffrage, education, and legal equality. Pioneering advocates. Prominent figures like Lucy Stone, one of the first women in Massachusetts to earn a college degree, and Abigail Adams, who famously reminded her husband John Adams to remember the ladies, were influential voices advocating for women's rights. The Boston Female Anti-Slavery Society was one of the earliest organizations to link the abolitionist and women's rights causes, highlighting the intersection of racial and gender equality. The city also hosted early women's rights conventions and lectures, making it a gathering place for reformers. Education for women institutions such as the Boston Female Academy and later, the founding of schools like the Boston Normal School, provided women with access to education and professional training, helping to break down barriers to economic independence and political participation. Immigration and social reform. The 19th century also brought a massive influx of immigrants to Boston, particularly from Ireland and later from Italy and other parts of Europe. These new communities reshaped the city's demographics and social fabric. Irish immigration and the Catholic Church. The Irish potato famine of the 1840s forced thousands of Irish to seek refuge in Boston, creating one of the largest immigrant communities in the city. Irish immigrants faced discrimination and hardship, but quickly became a vital part of Boston's workforce and political life. The Catholic Church, bolstered by Irish immigrants, grew rapidly in Boston, establishing schools, hospitals, and charitable organizations that served immigrant populations and helped them assimilate while preserving cultural identity. Social reform efforts. Boston reformers responded to the challenges of rapid urbanization and immigration with movements aimed at improving living conditions, public health, and labor rights. Leaders worked to create settlement houses, improve sanitation, and advocate for fair wages and safe working environments. These social reforms were often intertwined with abolitionism and women's rights, creating a broad coalition dedicated to building a more just and equitable society. Boston's legacy of reform. The 19th century reform movements transformed Boston into a city that not only grew economically, but also pushed the nation forward on key moral and social issues. The legacy of abolitionism, education reform, women's rights, and immigrant advocacy remains a vital part of Boston's identity today. Boston's progressive spirit helped lay the foundation for many of the rights and freedoms Americans enjoy now. Its role as a center for abolition and reform is a testament to the city's enduring commitment to justice, equality, and human dignity. Intellectual and educational hub. Boston's legacy of learning and innovation. Boston's identity as a beacon of intellectual pursuit and education is inseparable from its history. From the early colonial period through the modern age, the city has been a crucible of ideas, learning, and innovation that have shaped not only the region but the entire nation and beyond. The foundations of learning. Harvard University and early education. Founded in 1636, Harvard University holds the distinction of being the oldest institution of higher education in the United States and one of the oldest in the Western Hemisphere. Its establishment was deeply connected to Boston's Puritan roots. The Puritan settlers who founded Boston valued education highly, particularly to ensure that clergy and community leaders were well trained in religious and secular matters. Harvard's role in colonial and early America. Harvard's original mission was to train ministers for the colony's churches, reflecting the Puritans' concern for maintaining religious orthodoxy and moral discipline. However, the university quickly expanded its curriculum beyond theology to include classical studies, philosophy, and the sciences. Harvard became a hub for intellectual development, attracting some of the brightest minds of the era. The university played a crucial role in shaping the leaders of the American Revolution, providing a rigorous education to figures such as John Adams, Samuel Adams, and John Hancock. The university also served as a critical center for debate on political philosophy, ethics, and natural rights ideas that deeply influenced the American Enlightenment and the foundation of the United States. Growth of public education. Beyond Harvard, Boston was at the forefront of establishing public education in America. The city's leadership understood that a literate and educated populace was essential for a functioning democracy. In the early 19th century, education reformers like Horace Mann, often called the father of American public education, pushed for the development of common schools. Boston established one of the first publicly funded school systems, promoting free and universal education. The city's public schools were notable for their rigorous standards and emphasis on civic responsibility. This commitment to education created an environment where knowledge was valued not just for personal advancement, but as a public good that sustained community and democratic ideals. The American Enlightenment and Boston's intellectual climate. Boston's role in the American Enlightenment, a cultural and intellectual movement that emphasized reason, science, and human progress, cannot be overstated. The city was a center for vibrant philosophical discussions, scientific inquiry, and literary achievements that paralleled and contributed to the broader Enlightenment sweeping Europe and the New World. Key philosophers and thinkers. Boston's intellectual scene nurtured influential thinkers such as Jonathan Edwards, a prominent preacher and theologian. Edwards is often credited with sparking the First Great Awakening. His philosophical writings bridged religious fervor and Enlightenment rationalism, emphasizing the compatibility of faith and reason. Ralph Waldo Emerson, a leading figure in transcendentalism. Emerson's essays and lectures on individualism, nature, and self-reliance had a profound impact on American thought and literature. Henry David Thoreau, a protege of Emerson. Thoreau championed civil disobedience and environmentalism, ideas that continue to resonate worldwide. Literary contributions. Boston's literary scene flourished during the 19th century, establishing the city as a cultural powerhouse. The city produced some of America's most enduring writers and poets. Louisa May Alcott, best known for Little Women, Alcott's work reflected Boston's social values and reformist spirit. Nathaniel Hawthorne, though born in Salem, Hawthorne spent much of his life in Massachusetts and contributed richly to American literature with his exploration of morality and human nature. Edgar Allan Poe, while Poe's connection to Boston is sometimes contested, the city was a significant literary hub during his lifetime. These writers helped establish a uniquely American voice, blending European influences with local themes and ideals. The birth and growth of MIT. Innovation meets education. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology (MIT), founded in 1861 in Boston, represents another landmark in the city's educational and intellectual landscape. MIT was created to meet the industrial and technological needs of the rapidly changing nation, emphasizing applied science and engineering. MIT's mission and early years. Unlike Harvard's classical focus, MIT was designed as a technical school to train engineers, architects, and scientists who would drive America's industrial progress. This practical focus distinguished MIT and helped establish Boston as a leader in the burgeoning fields of technology and innovation. MIT's location in Boston's vibrant academic ecosystem allowed it to foster collaborations with other institutions, government agencies, and industries. This synergy accelerated technological advances and cemented Boston's reputation as a hub for cutting-edge research. Contributions to science and technology. MIT's faculty and alumni have been at the forefront of numerous breakthroughs, including developments in electronics, computer science, aerospace, engineering, and biotechnology. The Institute's emphasis on interdisciplinary collaboration has helped solve complex problems and fostered startups and innovations that have reshaped global industries. Boston as a hub for scientific research and medicine. Boston's intellectual leadership extends beyond universities into the realms of medicine and scientific research. The city hosts some of the world's leading hospitals and research institutions, making it a critical center for healthcare innovation. Harvard Medical School and affiliated hospitals. Harvard Medical School, founded in 1782, is one of the premier medical schools globally, consistently ranked among the best in research and education. The school's affiliated hospitals, including Massachusetts General Hospital and Boston Children's Hospital, are leaders in patient care and medical research. The Broad Institute and biotech industry. In recent decades, Boston has become a global center for biotechnology and genomics. The Broad Institute, a collaboration between MIT, Harvard, and affiliated hospitals, has pioneered research in genetics, cancer, and infectious diseases. This convergence of education, medicine, and technology continues to drive Boston's intellectual vitality and economic strength. The intellectual legacy and impact on American society. Boston's commitment to education and intellectual inquiry has had far-reaching impacts on American society and culture. The city's institutions have produced leaders in politics, science, literature, and social reform, contributing to national debates on democracy, human rights, and progress, promoting democratic ideals. Boston's educational institutions have long emphasized the importance of civic engagement and responsibility. This ethos has helped cultivate leaders and citizens dedicated to the principles of democracy and social justice, fostering innovation and economic growth. By nurturing science, technology, and the arts, Boston has continuously adapted to changing economic landscapes. The city's intellectual hubs attract talent from around the world, fueling industries that sustain its economy and influence. Cultural contributions. Boston's rich literary and philosophical traditions have contributed to America's cultural identity. The city remains a vibrant center for arts and humanities, hosting numerous museums, theaters, and cultural festivals. Conclusion. Boston's status as an intellectual and educational hub is not a historical accident, but the product of centuries of dedication to learning, innovation, and public service. From Harvard's colonial classrooms to MIT's cutting-edge labs, and from transcendentalist salons to biotech research centers, Boston continues to be a city where ideas thrive and shape the future. Its legacy as a cradle of the American Enlightenment and a leader in education underscores Boston's central role in the nation's development. Understanding Boston's intellectual heritage offers invaluable insight into the roots of American progress, culture, and democracy. Industrialization and immigration. 19th–20th centuries. Boston's transformation into a diverse urban powerhouse. Boston, once a modest colonial port city, underwent a dramatic transformation during the 19th and early 20th centuries. Fueled by industrialization and waves of immigration, Boston evolved into one of America's most dynamic and diverse urban centers. This period reshaped the city's economy, culture, and demographics, leaving an indelible mark on its identity that still resonates today. The dawn of industrialization. Boston's economic shift. Early industrial growth. During the early 1800s, Boston's economy began shifting from a primarily maritime and trade-based system to one dominated by manufacturing and industry. This transition was part of a larger trend sweeping across New England and the United States. As the Industrial Revolution took hold, Boston's strategic coastal location, established infrastructure, and skilled labor force made it well-positioned to capitalize on new industrial opportunities. Textile mills, shipbuilding yards, machinery factories, and other manufacturing enterprises flourished, bringing jobs and wealth to the city. The rise of the textile industry. Textile manufacturing became one of Boston's defining industries. Mills sprang up not only within the city, but also in nearby towns such as Lowell and Lawrence, which were integral parts of the greater Boston industrial network. The introduction of water-powered and later steam-powered machinery revolutionized production, allowing goods to be produced on a scale and speed never before possible. This industrial boom transformed Boston into an economic powerhouse and attracted workers from across the country and abroad. Expansion of infrastructure. Industrial growth necessitated improvements in transportation and infrastructure. Boston developed an extensive railroad network that connected it to inland markets and raw materials. The city's port was modernized to handle increased shipping traffic, further cementing Boston's role as a commercial hub. Bridges, roads, and public transit systems expanded, accommodating a growing urban population and facilitating the movement of goods and people. Waves of immigration, shaping Boston's cultural mosaic. While industrialization transformed Boston's economy, it was immigration that fundamentally reshaped the city's social and cultural landscape. Between the mid-19th and early 20th centuries, Boston became a magnet for immigrants seeking better lives and economic opportunities. The Irish pioneers of Boston's immigrant community. The first major wave of immigrants to Boston during this period was the Irish, fleeing famine and political upheaval in their homeland. Beginning in the 1840s, thousands of Irish immigrants arrived in Boston, often settling in the city's poorest neighborhoods. Challenges and contributions. Irish immigrants faced severe discrimination, poverty, and harsh living conditions. Many worked in low-paying jobs such as dock labor, construction, and domestic service. Despite these hardships, the Irish quickly became a vital part of Boston's workforce and culture. The Irish community was instrumental in building Boston's infrastructure, including canals, railroads, and public buildings. Politically, they organized themselves into powerful voting blocs, eventually dominating Boston's local politics and labor unions. Religious and social institutions. The Catholic Church played a central role in Irish immigrant life. Irish immigrants built numerous churches, schools, and charitable organizations, which became cornerstones of their community and helped preserve their cultural heritage while facilitating integration into American society. Italian immigration, a new wave of influence in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. A large influx of Italian immigrants further diversified Boston's population. Italians settled predominantly in neighborhoods like the North End, establishing vibrant communities rich in cultural traditions. Economic contributions. Italian immigrants often worked as artisans, laborers, and small business owners. They contributed significantly to the construction, shipping, and manufacturing industries, strengthening Boston's industrial economy. Cultural legacy. The Italian community infused Boston with new cultural practices, including food, festivals, music, and religious celebrations. Italian Americans became an essential part of Boston's social fabric, bridging old world traditions with new world aspirations. Other immigrant groups. Boston's immigrant population also included significant numbers of Germans, Jews, Scandinavians, and Eastern Europeans. Each group added unique cultural elements to the city, contributing to its reputation as a diverse and cosmopolitan urban center. Jewish immigrants, for example, established synagogues, schools, and cultural organizations in neighborhoods such as the West End and Dorchester. German immigrants contributed to the brewing industry and established social clubs and newspapers. Urban growth and social challenges. Population boom. The combined forces of industrialization and immigration caused Boston's population to explode. From about 45,000 residents in 1800, the city's population soared to over 700,000 by 1920. This rapid growth put immense pressure on housing, sanitation, and public services. Overcrowded tenements and poor living conditions were common in immigrant neighborhoods, leading to health and social problems. Labor movements and worker rights. The industrial economy created a burgeoning working class that soon began organizing for better wages, hours, and working conditions. Boston was a hotspot for labor activism, with unions forming in textile mills, shipping yards, and factories. Strikes and protests were frequent, often led by immigrant workers who sought to improve their lives while facing resistance from industrialists and city officials. Social reform efforts. In response to these challenges, Boston became a center for progressive social reform. Settlement houses like the North Bennett Street School and charitable organizations worked to improve education, public health, and housing. Reformers advocated for labor laws, sanitation improvements, and better living standards. Women's groups and religious organizations played a key role in these efforts, reflecting Boston's ongoing commitment to social justice. The political landscape. Immigrants and power. Immigrant communities, particularly the Irish, quickly gained political influence. They formed powerful political machines that controlled city government for much of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The Democratic Party in Boston became closely linked with Irish Americans, helping to elect mayors, councilors, and state legislators who championed immigrant rights and urban development. This political empowerment helped ensure that immigrant concerns were addressed, even as tensions between ethnic groups occasionally flared. Cultural contributions. Boston as a melting pot. Boston's immigrant communities enriched the city's cultural life in countless ways. Cuisine, Italian bakeries and restaurants, Irish pubs, Jewish delis, and German beer halls became fixtures of Boston's neighborhoods. Festivals, annual celebrations like the St. Patrick's Day Parade, and Italian feasts became citywide events that showcased Boston's cultural diversity. Art and music. Immigrant artists, musicians, and writers contributed to Boston's vibrant cultural scene, blending their heritage with American influences. Legacy and transformation into the 20th century. By the early 20th century, Boston had fully transformed from a colonial port into a bustling industrial city defined by its diversity. Immigrant communities had laid deep roots, influencing politics, culture, and society. However, the city also faced new challenges, including urban sprawl, racial tensions, and economic shifts as some industries declined and others rose. Despite these challenges, Boston's identity as a city of immigrants and industry remained strong. Its working-class neighborhoods and cultural enclaves preserved the legacy of those who built the city through hard work and perseverance. Conclusion. The period of industrialization and immigration between the 19th and 20th centuries was foundational in shaping modern Boston. The city's economic transformation created unprecedented opportunities and challenges, while successive waves of immigrants infused Boston with rich cultural diversity. Boston's industrial might, combined with its vibrant immigrant communities, positioned it as a microcosm of the American experience, a story of struggle, resilience, and transformation. Modern innovation and resilience in Boston, where history meets the future. Boston is a city that thrives on a remarkable balance between honoring its past and embracing the future. Renowned for its historic landmarks that tell the story of America's birth, Boston is also a global leader in innovation, excelling in medicine, technology, education, and culture. This dynamic city exemplifies resilience. It preserves its rich heritage while continuously reinventing itself as a cutting-edge metropolis. From the cobblestones of the Freedom Trail to the bustling biotech corridors of Kendall Square, Boston's story is one of continuity and transformation. Boston's historic charm, a living legacy. Boston's identity is deeply rooted in its history. Unlike many American cities where old buildings have been razed for modern skyscrapers, Boston has gone to great lengths to preserve its colonial-era architecture and historic sites. This preservation effort not only attracts millions of visitors every year, but also instills a sense of pride and continuity among its residents. The Freedom Trail, a walk through revolutionary America. At the heart of Boston's historical preservation is the Freedom Trail, a 2.5-mile red brick path that guides visitors through 16 significant sites connected to the American Revolution. Starting at Boston Common, the oldest public park in the United States, the trail passes by landmarks such as the Massachusetts State House, Park Street Church, Granary, Burying Ground, Old South Meeting House, and Old State House. Each stop along the Freedom Trail offers a window into the city's pivotal role in America's fight for independence. The trail culminates at the Bunker Hill Monument in Charlestown, commemorating one of the first major battles of the Revolution. Walking the Freedom Trail is more than a tour, it's a journey through time, connecting present-day Boston to its revolutionary roots. The Freedom Trail is also a community asset. It is maintained by the non-profit Freedom Trail Foundation, which provides educational programming and guided tours. This ensures that the city's history remains accessible and relevant to new generations. Paul Revere's house, a patriot's home preserved. Located in Boston's North End, Paul Revere's house is the oldest structure in downtown Boston, dating back to 1680. This modest colonial home belonged to Paul Revere, the patriot famous for his midnight ride warning colonists of approaching British troops. Today, the house functions as a museum, preserving the legacy of Revere and the colonial era. Visitors can see period artifacts, original architectural details, and learn about life in 18th-century Boston. The home is surrounded by narrow streets and brick sidewalks that evoke the city's early days. Paul Revere's house stands as a symbol of Boston's commitment to preserving not only buildings but also stories that define the nation's founding ideals: freedom, courage, and community. Faneuil Hall, the cradle of liberty and marketplace known as the Cradle of Liberty. Faneuil Hall has been a vibrant center of commerce and civic life since its construction in 1742. Originally a marketplace where merchants sold goods, it quickly became a gathering place for political discourse and revolutionary. Faneuil Hall hosted fiery speeches from patriots like Samuel Adams and James Otis, rallying colonists against British tyranny. Over time, the hall has evolved to accommodate modern commerce, becoming part of the larger Faneuil Hall marketplace, which combines shops, restaurants, and entertainment venues. Despite modern adaptations, Faneuil Hall retains its historic grandeur. Its distinctive Georgian architecture, lanterns, and interior gallery remind visitors of the hall's revolutionary past. Today it continues to serve as a public forum for debate, protests, and cultural celebrations, maintaining its role as a civic heart of Boston. Boston's modern innovation, a hub for medicine, technology, and education. While Boston cherishes its past, the city is also a vibrant center of innovation and progress. It has earned a global reputation for excellence in medicine, technology, and education, attracting talent from around the world and leading advances that shape the future. Medicine and biotechnology. Healing the world. Boston's medical institutions rank among the best globally. The Longwood Medical and Academic Area, home to Harvard Medical School and world-renowned hospitals such as Massachusetts General, Brigham and Women's, and Boston Children's Hospital, serves as a beacon of healthcare innovation. Boston's dominance in biotechnology is unrivaled. The area around Kendall Square in Cambridge is often dubbed the most innovative square mile on the planet, hosting hundreds of biotech startups, research institutes, and pharmaceutical giants. These institutions are at the forefront of genetic research, cancer therapies, immunology, and regenerative medicine. Institutions like the Broad Institute and the Wyss Institute pioneer interdisciplinary research, blending biology, engineering, and computer science to solve complex medical challenges. Boston's medical innovation ecosystem exemplifies resilience, as it rapidly adapts to emerging threats, most recently showcased during the COVID-19 pandemic, when local institutions swiftly contributed to vaccine development and public health strategies. Technology and entrepreneurship, the engine of progress. Boston's reputation as a technology powerhouse is anchored by prestigious institutions like the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, and Harvard University. These universities foster environments where cutting-edge research meets entrepreneurial spirit. MIT's contributions to computer science, robotics, artificial intelligence, and clean energy are world-renowned. The culture of collaboration between academia, industry, and government has led to the creation of startups and companies that tackle global challenges. Boston's vibrant startup ecosystem is supported by innovation hubs, venture capital firms, and accelerators. Areas like the Seaport District and Cambridge's Innovation District buzz with activity, blending tech offices, co-working spaces, and research labs. This ecosystem fuels Boston's economic growth and reinforces its global competitiveness. Education, a legacy of excellence and opportunity. Boston is a global education capital. Harvard University, MIT, Boston University, Northeastern University, Tufts University, and many others contribute to a thriving academic community that draws students from every corner of the world. The city's universities are not only centers of learning, but also key drivers of research, social progress, and economic development. They partner with industries and government agencies to tackle critical issues such as climate change, public health, and urban planning. Moreover, Boston's public schools, libraries, and cultural institutions support lifelong learning and community engagement, ensuring that education remains accessible and inclusive. Resilience in the face of change. Boston's history is marked by resilience, whether rebuilding after devastating fires, economic downturns, or social upheavals. Today, the city continues to demonstrate this spirit as it navigates the complexities of the 21st century. Urban renewal and preservation, a thoughtful balance. Boston has managed to grow and modernize without sacrificing its historic character. Urban renewal projects often incorporate preservation principles, ensuring that new development respects the city's architectural heritage. For example, the Rose Kennedy Greenway, a linear park built after the demolition of the elevated Central Artery Highway, combines modern green space with views of historic neighborhoods and landmarks. This project symbolizes Boston's innovative approach to urban design, prioritizing livability while honoring the past. Social progress and inclusion. Boston's resilience is also reflected in its efforts to foster social equity and inclusion. The city has grappled with historic racial and economic divides, yet continues to invest in affordable housing, education, equity, and community health initiatives. Programs to bridge digital divides and improve access to technology have become especially important as Boston embraces its role as a tech hub. These efforts aim to ensure that the city's innovation benefits all residents, not just a privileged few. Environmental sustainability. Recognizing the threats posed by climate change, Boston has committed to ambitious sustainability goals. The city's climate action plan targets carbon neutrality, resilience against rising sea levels, and expanded green infrastructure. Initiatives include investing in clean energy, improving public transit, and protecting coastal wetlands. Boston's commitment to environmental resilience complements its historical preservation, creating a city that honors its past while securing its future. The interplay of history and modern life. Boston's unique urban experience. Boston's historic landmarks and modern innovations coexist seamlessly, creating a rich, layered urban experience. Living history in everyday life. Residents and visitors encounter Boston's history in everyday moments, walking along brick-lined streets in Beacon Hill, shopping at Quincy Market, or attending events at Faneuil Hall. These experiences keep history alive as a tangible part of daily life. Meanwhile, the city's universities and tech companies contribute a forward-looking energy, with campuses and innovation centers blending contemporary architecture with historic surroundings. Tourism and economy. Historic sites like the Freedom Trail, Paul Revere's house, and Faneuil Hall are not just cultural treasures, they are economic engines. Tourism generates billions in revenue annually, supporting local businesses and jobs. The city's ability to attract tourists and professionals alike speaks to its dynamic character, a place where the past and future are equally celebrated. Conclusion. Boston's enduring spirit. Boston exemplifies the power of resilience and innovation grounded in history. The city's iconic landmarks serve as reminders of the revolutionary ideals that shaped a nation, while its leadership in medicine, technology, and education points toward a future of limitless possibility. By carefully preserving its historic charm while fostering cutting-edge progress, Boston offers a blueprint for cities worldwide on how to honor heritage and embrace change simultaneously. It is a city that knows where it came from and where it's going and inspires the world with both. The Big Dig, reinventing the city for the 21st century. If the Freedom Trail represents Boston's reverence for history, the Big Dig represents its boldness in reimagining the future. Officially known as the Central Artery Tunnel Project, the Big Dig was one of the most ambitious urban infrastructure undertakings in U.S. history. It aimed to tackle one of Boston's biggest problems, crippling downtown traffic caused by the elevated I-93 highway that cut through the heart of the city. From concrete jungle to green oasis by burying the highway underground and replacing it with the Rose Kennedy Greenway, a series of linear parks and public spaces. The Big Dig transformed Boston's downtown into a pedestrian-friendly and environmentally conscious corridor. Where there was once noise, traffic, and visual blight, there is now greenery, public art, farmers markets, concerts, and playgrounds. The Greenway stitches together historic neighborhoods like the North End, Financial District, and Chinatown, enhancing connectivity and community engagement. Urban renewal with a twist, although it was plagued by delays and cost overruns. The Big Dig ultimately redefined how cities can rethink infrastructure to improve quality of life. It is now cited in urban planning textbooks as a case study in urban renewal through public space and environmental sustainability. The Big Dig wasn't just a construction project, it was a philosophical shift, a decision to prioritize people over cars, green space over concrete, and walkability over congestion. Innovation ecosystem. Boston's modern identity, while the Freedom Trail reminds us of Boston's revolutionary roots, and the Big Dig illustrates its capacity for reinvention. Modern Boston is perhaps best known today for innovation. The city has emerged as a global hub for tech startups, biotechnology, clean energy, education, and urban innovation, all while maintaining a close relationship with its academic institutions, world-class universities. The engine of innovation, Boston and neighboring Cambridge are home to more than 50 colleges and universities, including Harvard, MIT, Tufts, Boston University, and Northeastern. These institutions fuel an innovation economy that rivals Silicon Valley not by replicating it, but by offering something distinct: deep research, interdisciplinary collaboration, and a global outlook. Harvard and MIT, in particular, drive much of the region's research and development, producing Nobel laureates, cutting-edge AI, and groundbreaking medical research. Their proximity to Kendall Square, a hotbed of venture capital and biotech, creates a synergy rarely seen elsewhere. Tech and biotech boom. Boston has emerged as a biotech powerhouse. Companies like Moderna, one of the first to develop a COVID-19 vaccine, Biogen, and Vertex are headquartered here, often in close proximity to the labs where their science was born. Meanwhile, the Seaport District and Kendall Square team with startups working on robotics, AI, fintech, edtech, and climate tech. Accelerators like Mascalinge, Techstars, Boston, and Harvard ILAB provide mentorship and funding to young entrepreneurs. Clean energy and sustainability. Boston is also taking climate change seriously. With its coastal location and aging infrastructure, the city is vulnerable to rising sea levels and extreme weather. In response, the city has launched the Climate Ready Boston initiative, investing in resilient waterfronts, flood barriers, and carbon neutrality goals. Innovation here isn't just about gadgets and algorithms, it's about finding sustainable solutions for real urban problems. Boston is one of the leading cities in the Greenovate Boston movement, which integrates clean tech, public policy, and citizen engagement to reduce emissions and promote renewable energy. Neighborhoods that tell a story. Modern Boston is not a monolith. Its charm lies in its distinct neighborhoods, each with a rich story, unique culture, and evolving identity. The North End, Boston's oldest residential neighborhood. The North End is known for its tight streets, Italian heritage, and historic landmarks like Paul Revere's house and the Old North Church. Despite rising property values and new developments, the North End maintains its old-world character, complete with mom-and-pop bakeries, family-run restaurants, and community festivals like the Feast of St. Anthony. Roxbury and the Black Cultural Renaissance, once the heart of Boston's African-American community. Roxbury is undergoing a cultural revival. Institutions like the Museum of the National Center of Afro-American Artists and efforts to preserve Jazz-era landmarks are elevating Black history and creativity in the city's cultural narrative. Roxbury is also a site of economic reinvestment, with community organizations pushing for affordable housing, arts funding, and small business development. The Seaport, a tech playground, Boston's Seaport District, is the clearest example of how the city is modernizing. In just over a decade, it has transformed from an industrial wasteland into a booming tech and business hub, home to Amazon, PwC, GE, and hundreds of startups. Despite its economic success, the Seaport has faced criticism for its lack of diversity and affordability, a reminder that even in innovation, Boston continues to grapple with the tensions of inclusion and equity. Arts, culture, and civic life. Boston may be renowned for history and science, but it also has a rich and vibrant arts and cultural scene that bridges old and new. Museums and performing arts. The Museum of Fine Arts, MFA, and the Institute of Contemporary Art, ICA, offer global collections that span millennia. Boston Symphony Orchestra and Boston Ballet maintain the city's classical arts traditions. The Boston Center for the Arts and Arts Immersion highlight emerging voices and experimental work. The city also supports public art, murals, and cultural programming in underserved communities, democratizing access to creativity. Libraries, parks, and community. Boston Public Library, founded in 1848, was the first large free municipal library in the U.S. today. It serves not only as a historical institution but also as a digital literacy center and community hub. The city's green spaces like Boston Common, the Esplanade, and Franklin Park play a major role in civic life. Farmers markets, outdoor movies, fitness classes, and protests alike animate these spaces, keeping democracy and community active in daily life. The challenges of growth. As Boston continues to grow and modernize, it faces several challenges that test its resilience and adaptability. Affordability. The housing crisis has made Boston one of the most expensive U.S. cities to live in. Efforts to increase affordable housing and protect long-time residents are ongoing. Gentrification. Rapid development, especially in historically working-class or immigrant neighborhoods, raises concerns about displacement. Transit inequality. The MBTA, Boston's public transit system, faces aging infrastructure and inconsistent service, impacting low-income communities the most. Yet these challenges are met with fierce activism. Thoughtful urban planning and collaborative leadership are hallmark of the city's enduring civic spirit. Conclusion. A city that remembers and reinvents. Modern Boston is proof that a city can honor its past while embracing the future. Whether you're standing on the Freedom Trail, walking the Greenway above the Big Dig, or sipping